Most people only understand the value of water when the last drop falls, not into a glass, but into dust. And by then it's too late. Drybell, Texas, was once a place of long summers and short memories, a town where nothing changed and everyone stayed the same. But buried beneath its sun-scorched earth and small-town sermons was a secret no one wanted to remember. Not the townspeople, not the church, and certainly not Pastor Benjamin Rowe. It had been years since Aiden Rowe had walked its streets. The boy they cast out had long since grown into a man. He didn't come back with a camera crew or a letter of apology. He returned with calloused hands, a faded map, and a silence carved from being unwanted. They called it a drought. The news said it was climate, bad infrastructure, government delays. But Aiden knew better. The town wasn't just thirsty for water, it was thirsty for truth. He had known about the map for years, left to him by his grandfather, a man just as strange and unwelcome as Aiden had become. The map showed a stretch of barren land marked with a single hand-drawn circle labeled, "Well, when they forget you." He didn't know what it meant at the time. He was too young, too afraid, too hurt. When Aiden was 17, he told the truth. And the cost of that truth was exile. His father called it righteousness. The congregation called it cleansing. His mother called it nothing at all. She only looked away. So he left. No suitcase, no plan, just a name too heavy to carry, and a truth no one wanted. In Dallas, Aiden learned how to disappear. He worked nights, lived small, avoided the mirror. There were days he wanted to forget everything, his voice, his family, even the land that raised him. But he couldn't bring himself to throw away the map. He folded and unfolded it so many times. The paper softened like cloth. It smelled like old earth and metal, like memory. And when the news broke that Drybell was running out of water, that the town well had finally given up after nearly a century, Aiden didn't feel vindicated. He felt something worse. He felt nothing at all. Still, he boarded the bus, sat alone, carried no luggage. The town didn't need a prodigal son. It needed a solution. And that's exactly what he brought. Aiden didn't announce who he was. He didn't go to his childhood home or walk past the church where his father still preached. Instead, he showed up at the local public works office with steel-toed boots and a dusty resume. There was a small, well-drilling firm contracted to explore backup sources. He offered to help. They asked no questions. Labor was scarce. The heat was killing people. And just like that, Aiden became the nameless man digging into the dry belly of the land that had once spat him out. Every day he arrived before sunrise. He avoided eye contact, wore long sleeves even when the heat scalded skin. When asked, he said little. His voice had changed, deeper, quieter, hardened. But the hands that gripped the drill, that traced the old map during break hours, they knew exactly where they were going. The site was located on a patch of land no one cared for anymore. It belonged to no church, no home, just a dusty stretch that once marked the edge of the Rowe family estate. Aiden remembered standing there as he walked barefoot, curious, always told, "Don't wander too far." Now he understood why. The secret of the well wasn't that it had been lost. It had been buried intentionally, and someone in town had wanted it forgotten. But what they buried, Aiden would raise not for revenge, not even for closure, for water, for life, for the simple truth that even those who are thrown away can still carry something worth saving. If you believe the ones they cast out can be the ones who restore everything, you're in the right place. Follow Heartstories for more real stories that don't flinch from the truth. The drill bit groaned against rock, shaking through Aiden's arms like an echo from something ancient. Dust curled at his boots. The others on the crew wiped sweat from their brows and cursed the stubborn clay. But Aiden said nothing. He just kept going. Each rotation, each vibration in the metal, felt like he was digging through more than soil, through memory, silence, and the shame others tried to layer over his name. And yet, the ground didn't resist him. It resisted everyone else. But not him. On the third day, while alone for a moment during lunch break, Aiden pulled out the map once again. The corner had torn, the ink had faded in places, but the mark was still there, a rough circle, a small X, and above it, in his grandfather's jagged script, for the one they tried to erase. That day, Aiden moved the drill 2 feet east without asking. The crew grumbled, but no one stopped him. They were tired. The town was desperate. Hope was running thinner than their paychecks. And in Drybell, no one questioned a man willing to do the work no one else wanted. From the edges of the field, townspeople began to gather. Some brought lawn chairs. Others watched from pickup trucks with their arms folded. The woman who ran the diner brought cold tea. A few old men from the church muttered to themselves. They didn't recognize him. At least, not yet. But the land did. Each day bled into the next. Blisters formed and tore open. The sun became a wall pressing down from above. One night, Aiden stood by the equipment long after the others had gone. He looked out at the stillness, at the horizon that had once meant escape, and saw something strange. Footprints. Fresh ones. Someone had been there, watching. He followed them across the dust until they disappeared behind a grove of brittle mesquite trees. There, carved faintly into the bark, were initials A+M, his own, and his mother's. For a moment on it, Aiden couldn't breathe. That tree stood at the edge of their old property. His mother used to bring him here to calm him down when the sermons got too loud, when the whispers from churchgoers became knives. She had told him once, if people speak too much, find the trees. They don't say anything, but they remember everything. Aiden pressed his hand to the carving, as if trying to touch her voice, her warmth. Something left behind. He whispered, I remember too. The next day, water threatened to rise, a change in the air, a shift in the vibration of the drill. The dust smelled different, like whetstone and iron. Aiden's fingers trembled, but just before he could adjust the settings to go deeper, a voice behind him called out. It was the project supervisor. The town council had intervened. The drilling was to be paused for safety reviews. Too much cost, not enough return. They said they couldn't justify further digging without guarantees. Aiden knew what it meant. Someone had pushed to shut the work down, but he kept his face blank and nodded. That night, he returned alone. Under moonlight, he adjusted the equipment himself, locked the stabilizers, and resumed drilling. Not recklessly, but with precision. He had studied geology in secret, watched hours of tutorials. Everything he had been denied: resources, education, support, he taught himself in borrowed hours and flickering Wi-Fi. He didn't need permission anymore. By morning, the others arrived to find the ground wet, not just damp, but singing with pressure. The scent of something long buried filled the air. Someone cried. One of the elders fell to their knees and whispered a prayer. Water surged, clear, clean, real. People clapped. Some shouted. Others stared in awe. But not everyone was celebrating. In the back of the crowd stood Pastor Benjamin Rowe, arms crossed, face unreadable. The crew clapped Aiden on the back. You saved the town, one of them said. That map must have been magic. But the pastor didn't move. He just looked at the well as if it had betrayed him. And that's when the whisper started. That's when someone said aloud, Wait, what's your name? Again, Aiden turned slowly. The crowd went still. He looked straight into his father's eyes. My name is Aiden Rowe, he said. The silence dropped like a hammer. All the laughter, the celebration stopped. People turned to Benjamin. His lips tightened, his hands clenched, and someone from the crowd muttered, Wasn't he the boy you? But no one finished the sentence, because no one needed to. No one spoke, not right away. Aiden's name still hung in the air like dust that refused to settle. Some faces turned toward Pastor Benjamin Rowe, expecting denial. Others turned toward Aiden, searching for pieces of the teenager they remembered. The one who vanished after Sunday service without a word. The one whose name became taboo. A story that got shorter every year. But here he was, not broken, not ashamed, and not leaving. The water from the well kept rising, pure, steady, like it had been waiting for this moment. The town, once crumbling from thirst, was now reborn, and the man responsible was the same one they cast out for who he loved. Aiden didn't say anything else that day. He packed up his tools, nodded at the crew, and walked off the site before anyone could approach. He wasn't interested in forgiveness delivered by applause, and certainly not from those who had gone quiet when he needed them most. That night, he returned to the site alone. Again. The sound of frogs returned for the first time in years. Crickets, moisture in the air, the land breathing again. He sat near the base of the old mesquite tree, the one where his initials still remained. That's where his mother found him. She didn't speak right away, just stood a few feet away in the dark, holding something in her hands. A photograph, worn, creased in the middle. "I didn't forget you," she finally said, voice soft but steady. Aiden didn't turn around. "I wasn't strong enough," she added. He still didn't answer. She stepped closer, held out the photo. It was a picture of him and his grandfather, taken under this very tree. Aiden had barely been 10. There was dirt on his face and a flower crown on his head, something he'd made from weeds and bits of wild mint. His grandfather had smiled at him like he was a miracle, not a problem. "I kept it," she said, "even when your father said to throw everything away. I kept it in the back of the pantry, behind the coffee tins." Aiden took it, looked at it briefly, then folded it and put it into his jacket pocket. "Why didn't you tell anyone about the well?" he asked. "I didn't know it was real," she admitted. "Your grandfather talked about it, but Benjamin said it was fantasy, said it was old man talk, that only God provides water, and only through the righteous." Aiden let out a quiet breath, half a laugh, half exhaustion. "He knew," Aiden said. "What? He knew it was real?" Aiden replied, standing. "He'd been there when I was little. Grandpa told me he showed your husband the well when he was a boy. Said the water was a gift, but only if shared in love. That the land wouldn't open for anyone who buried truth." His mother blinked, confused. "He buried it," Aiden continued, "and he buried me too. Not in the ground, just in silence." A pause passed between them like a gust of dry wind. "Now it's time he tells the truth," Aiden said, walking past her. The next morning, town hall was full. People had gathered not just to celebrate the well, but to understand it. How had no one found it sooner? How did this man, the outcast, know where to dig? Pastor Benjamin was asked to speak. He climbed the steps slowly, Bible in hand. His words were polished, careful. He praised second chances, spoke of mysterious blessings, and thanked the Lord for sending help in a form we might not have expected. Aiden listened from the back of the room, face unreadable. Then a man stood up, one of the town's oldest residents. "Benjamin," the man said, "is it true you knew about the well as a child?" Gasps, whispers, eyes darting. The pastor froze, then smiled tightly. "That's an old story," he said. "It's not. You were 12, then," the man continued. "Your father showed it to you. I was there." More silence. The pastor's jaw flexed. Aiden stepped forward. "You buried it," he said, voice calm but firm. "And when you couldn't bury it deep enough, you buried me instead." Benjamin looked at him, eyes sharp, but voice still smooth. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying," Aiden replied. "You knew there was a source of life beneath this town, but you didn't like the conditions. You didn't like that it came from someone you thought was beneath you, that it required sharing, that it didn't come through your sermons." Murmurs rose in the room. "You told people I was cursed," Aiden said. "But the land didn't listen to you, and it listened to me." Benjamin gripped the pulpit like it might save him from drowning. "You were afraid," Aiden said, "afraid that if I proved valuable, they'd stop listening to you, that if I had water, your words would dry up." The pastor opened his mouth, closed it again. Aiden turned to leave. Outside, the sun was rising. clearer than it had in days, and beneath it, the well still sang. In the days that followed, the well never stopped flowing, but the people of Drybell did. They slowed their steps. They watched Aiden with new eyes, not full of contempt like years before, but not entirely cleansed either. Curiosity lingered. Guilt shadowed smiles. Apologies came in fragments, couched in small talk. Funny how you knew exactly where to dig. You've really changed since you left. Your grandfather would be proud. But no one said, we were wrong. That's the thing about towns like Drybell. They don't ask for forgiveness. They just behave like forgetting counts the same. Aiden didn't try to correct them. He didn't offer comfort or anger or instruction. He came and went quietly each day, checking the water quality, making sure the filtration was working, logging flow rates like it was just a job. But at night, when the town lights dimmed and the frogs returned to their singing, he'd walk to the tree. The initials in the bark were weathered now, the same tree where his grandfather once told him, water runs toward the truth, not away from it. He had thought it a metaphor back then. Now he wasn't so sure. One evening, he found a group of teenagers gathered at the well, laughing, filming videos. One of them pretended to fall in. Another wore a shirt with a rainbow pin subtle but visible. Aiden stood at a distance and watched. No one mocked the boy. No one called him names. No one threw rocks or quotes from Leviticus. That night, Aiden cried. Not because the town had changed, but because the next boy might not have to leave just to survive. Still, there were loose ends. One in particular, Benjamin Rowe. The man hadn't spoken to him since town hall. Aiden hadn't expected him to, but he could feel the weight of his father's presence like heat from a flame not close enough to burn, but too close to ignore. Then, one morning, as Aiden was packing up equipment by the well, Benjamin appeared. No robe, no Bible, just a man in an old coat and worn-out shoes. He stood there for a long time before speaking. I used to draw water here, he said, with my father, before anyone else knew it existed. Aiden didn't answer, just watched him. He said the land had a memory, that it gave back what you gave to it. Benjamin looked older now, not because of age, but because control had slipped from his hands. And for the first time in his life, he didn't know what to do without it. I buried it, he finally admitted. I told the elders it wasn't real. I said it had dried out, that God didn't want us drawing from a cursed source. Aiden's face didn't change. I was afraid, Benjamin said, afraid of what it meant if truth didn't come through me. Aiden didn't respond. His father took a step closer. I know it's too late for you to call me anything other than coward, and I probably deserve worse. There it was. Not an apology. Not quite, but an opening. Aiden looked down at the edge of the well. The water shimmered. A breeze picked up. The sound of it passing through the trees felt like breath returning to lungs long collapsed. Why did you come now? He asked. Benjamin swallowed. Because I had a dream last night. I saw my father. He was standing at this well with you. He said, you can't call something cursed when it's the only thing keeping your people alive. Aiden exhaled slowly. That's not a dream, he said. That's memory trying to wake you up. His father looked away, ashamed. You don't have to believe I'm right, Aiden added, but you do have to admit you were wrong. I was, Benjamin said. There was a long silence. This time, not heavy, just honest. I'm not asking to come back into your life, his father said. I just want to stop lying to mine. Aiden nodded. That was enough. They stood there together, not as father and son, not as pastor and exile. Just two men, one who had buried the well and one who had dug it back up. Later that week, the town held a ceremony, not a religious one, just a gathering. People brought candles, flowers, old photographs of family members who died during the drought years. Someone carved a plaque beside the well beneath shame raised by the one we cast out. Some objected to the wording, said it was too political. Others said it was too personal, but no one dared remove it. Aiden didn't attend the ceremony. He didn't need the moment. His healing had already happened in the work, in the water, in the stillness of that tree. Instead, he visited the library. He donated his grandfather's map and journals, left a note. May truth never be buried again. That night, the wind blew stronger than usual. The tree creaked gently. The well bubbled like it was laughing, and the water kept flowing. It no longer mattered who believed it. It was real, and it was enough. Weeks passed, then months. Drybell, once a fading dot on a map of forgotten places, became known for something more than heat and closed churches. Travelers stopped to see the well, not because it was ancient or majestic, but because of the plaque. The words drew them in. The well beneath shame, raised by the one we cast out. Some cried reading it, some took selfies, some just stood in silence, hands resting on the stone, as if trying to feel the truth still vibrating beneath the surface. Aiden never explained the full story to anyone else. Not on the news, not in interviews. He turned down the offers for documentaries, the emails from activists, the curious college students who asked, "What was it like being kicked out by your own father?" Because it wasn't about the drama anymore. It was about what came after. Aiden stayed in Drybell, not out of loyalty, but out of purpose. He rented a small house near the edge of town and turned his grandfather's journals into a project scanning pages, preserving notes, mapping old wells and springs across the Southwest. The land had stories, just like people did, and he was finally ready to listen. Children came to the well now during school trips. They filled jars, painted pictures. Teachers taught them not only about geology, but about courage. One boy asked, "Why is there a rainbow sticker on the well sign?" The teacher didn't flinch, because someone once had to choose between hiding who they were or helping others anyway. Aiden watched that from a distance, and he smiled. At church, Pastor Benjamin kept his sermons shorter. He spoke less about wrath and more about reckoning. People noticed the difference. He never regained the old power he once held, but perhaps that was the point. Sometimes losing power is the first step to becoming a person again. He and Aiden didn't become close. They didn't pretend to undo the past, but sometimes they met at the well, shared coffee, spoke about the weather, the soil, the water levels. There was peace in that, and peace was enough. Aiden's mother brought him pecan pie every Thursday. She never missed a week. She didn't always stay to talk, but sometimes she did. One afternoon, she confessed something while pouring him tea. "I knew where the photo was hidden, but I also kept something else." She reached into her bag and handed him an envelope. Inside was a letter, unopened, yellowed at the edges. It was from his grandfather, addressed to Aiden, dated 2 days before the pastor had banished him. Aiden read it that night under the mesquite tree. "If you are reading this, it means you stayed strong, or at least alive. Either way, you've done what I hoped. This town forgets easily, but the ground never does. That well will open again, but not for just anyone, only for you. Because water listens to truth, it runs toward it, and you, my boy, are more truth than this town ever knew what to do with." Aiden folded the letter slowly. He didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, he walked to the well, dropped a pebble in, and whispered, "Thank you." The ripples disappeared quietly. A week later, a family knocked on his door. Strangers. They had driven from 3 states away. The teenage son stood behind his parents, holding something tightly in both hands, a journal, a map, something old and wrinkled. The mother said, "We heard what happened here. Our son, well, we think he needs to talk to someone who understands." Aiden invited them in, not because he had all the answers, but because he once needed someone to do the same. And slowly, Drybell became a different place, the kind that held space for conversations it used to silence. The kind where a boy could walk home wearing whatever color he wanted without hearing slurs behind him. The kind where wells didn't just bring water, but remembrance. One evening, standing at the edge of the field as the sun dropped behind the hills, Aiden looked at all that had changed. The dust still blew across the road, the sky still stretched void and empty, the people still faltered in their kindness. But under the surface quiet, steady the truth flowed, not just through the ground, but through him. And that was enough. If a town that buried someone could still be healed by him, what does that say about the power of being true to yourself, even when no one stands beside you? Have you ever had to return to a place that once rejected you? Would you have the strength to give back? Knowing they never said sorry, tell us below. And if Aiden's story touched you, subscribe to Heartstories for more stories about truth, dignity, and the quiet power of coming home on your own terms.